Perfect. So, good evening, everyone, and welcome to this 90 minutes session on marketing analytics. Some of you, I could see from the names in the emails, have already come for my sessions earlier. Some of you have purchased my courses as well. So, welcome back to you. Those of you who are meeting me for the first time, I'm going to take 2 minutes to give you my introduction so that you understand a little better what type of companies I work with, what type of projects I handle, which are the tools that I work on. You are welcome to ask me questions as and when you have any. You can either unmute yourself. I have enabled the speaking option for you, and the chat window is also open. So, however you are comfortable, if you would like to ask something by talking, I'm okay with that. If you want to use the chat window, I will keep an eye on the chat window as well. Okay. So, very quickly, all right. So, I run a firm called Attrition Consulting. It's an independent proprietorship. So I work as an independent consultant. I don't have a team with me. Everything that I do alone. The tools that I work on are primarily Excel, Power BI, a little bit of Tableau, and a very little bit of Python and R as well. Even though I like to work on Python much more than R, on a personal level, that is something I've been learning and educating myself on for the last couple of years. And I even have courses on introductory R in Python. That is not really an area of my forte. And that is not what I do for my clients. With my clients, about 80-85% of the work I do is between Excel and Power BI. In terms of my qualifications, I'm Harvard Online Certified in Data Science, 40 under 40 Analytics, Microsoft Certified Trainer, Power BI Certified, Microsoft Office Master. I was also listed as a 40 under 40 and an Indian Achievers Award. And Attrition Consulting was listed as a 30 most innovative startups. The sort of clients with whom I work are given here. As you can see, they are across various sectors, but I do a lot of work in the energy and power sector. So at the moment, I'm working with Adani Power, Adani Transmission, Sterlite Power, and IndiGrid. In the past, I have conducted about 250 odd trainings with two of the big fours, with PwC and EY, even though I don't work with them anymore. At the moment, I'm doing a lot of Power BI trainings, intermediate and advanced, with D Shaw, which is an investment banking hedge fund company. My work has been featured in a bunch of different places, both online and in magazines. And I've extensively worked with Business World. I've done a lot of corporate and political service. I also get regularly invited by the Times Group. So the most recent session that I had taken was on financial analysis and modeling. So Pinkish had taken a session on financial analysis. I had handled the Excel modeling part of it. Like this, I've covered a few different ET masterclass sessions. In terms of B school engagements, I have engaged with 17 of the IIMs in various capacities. So I've conducted workshops, I have taken half credit courses, I obviously do a lot of guest lectures, I give case studies, I judge competitions. So in the last few months, the engagements I've had has been with IIM Udaipur, where I did a workshop on Power BI and Excel. Then I was at Shriram College of Commerce last month for a 3-week, 72 hours training on Excel, PowerPoint, Power BI, and Tableau. And before that, I was at IIM Kozhikode in April, again for 3 weeks, for a training with the third batch of the Business Leadership Program, which is the one-year executive MBA that they have. Like this, I've done a bunch of different sessions with different colleges. All the details are here in case you would like to have a look. And most importantly, I also have my YouTube channel where I have just crossed 4,000 subscribers. Here I have over 825 videos that has everything from basic to very advanced related to Excel and Power BI and Tableau and PowerPoint. There is a little bit of content on Python that I'm introducing now, but predominantly what you will find here is Excel, PowerPoint, and Power BI, and quite a bit of Tableau as well. Everything has been neatly categorized into playlists. So if you are curious, you can definitely go ahead and have a look. All right, I'm going to share the link with everyone as well on the chat window. Here we go. Perfect. I think without further ado, let me start with the training. Now, let me tell you that the work I've done in marketing has been with various clients. So I am from Reckitt. After I did my MBA, I worked with Reckitt for 2 years and 7 months. So that was a campus placement. And I was in a hardcore sales profile. Initially working in Delhi, having moved to Kanpur, and then finally to Chennai for my last stint. At the moment, I do a little bit of work with CPG companies, but not a lot. So I've on and off done some trainings with Sony. I have worked with GSK. I have worked with Britannia. I worked with Kimberly Club. But like I said, on and off, I haven't done a lot of work in the CPG space. But even with the other organizations with whom I work in healthcare, in energy and power, they all have a marketing team, right? So I do a lot of marketing analytics work. This is not digital marketing per se. Very little of my work is pertaining to digital marketing. Most of it is traditional marketing. Things like dealer management, distributor handling, creating a journey plan, identifying the best-selling products, identifying growth opportunities, customer loyalty, things like that. So these are very generic topics that would be relevant for everyone across every sector, right? So I'm going to start with my first example. I'm starting with an intermediate level example, not very difficult, not very simple either, right? Okay, so this is on customer loyalty. Now, before I take you through the Excel, I would also like to talk a little bit about what customer loyalty is, right? Now we understand customer loyalty, especially as an MBA student, you know exactly what it means, right? It's the likelihood of a customer to stick with the brand and purchase from you regularly. Now, based on the customer loyalty, there are a lot of other metrics that are attached to it, right? So, for example, if you look at things like the RPR, which is the repeat purchase rate, the repeat purchase rate essentially says that how many customers are purchasing repeatedly from you. For example, maybe Swiggy has 1 lakh new customers in this month, in the month of August, but out of that, only 20% of them will make a repeat purchase in the same month. Now, that's not a good sign because it means that you're getting a lot of new customers, but they're not sticking with the brand. Typically, what we refer to as brand stickiness, right? So we have new customers, we have lost customers, we have repeat customers. So if you just do a general Google search on new, repeat, loyal, lost customers, you will see there's a lot of content available on it. So I'm not really sharing a perfect single link with you, but now that you know the terms, you can go and have a look at this. Then we also have something called customer attrition. All right. Sorry about that, everyone. As it turned out, my Bluetooth headphones ran out of battery. So can everybody confirm if the voice is clear now? I'm using a different set of headphones now.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Now it's audible.
All good? Okay, excellent. Thank you so much. Okay, so we were discussing customer attrition. Now, typically we refer to attrition in terms of a HR metric, right? So we usually want to talk about how many employees have left the company. But as you can see, customer attrition, or what we refer to as customer churn, is applicable even in marketing. Essentially, you want to find out how many customers have made a purchase and now have stopped making purchases from the firm. For example, maybe I have been purchasing from Hindustan Unilever, one of their products, let's say Ponds, for the last 2 years, but now suddenly I have switched to a different brand. And that's a very bad sign because if your loyal old customers are switching over to a new brand, that's not a good sign at all, right? So let's talk about this. So I have a Excel file here. Ignore the formulas. I've already done the calculation, but I'll do it one more time with you. So we all know that there are campaigns that are run. So you might see a television campaign, you might see a mall activation, you might see some experiential marketing, or maybe a new product launch. Now, as an organization, we know that these are the customers before the campaign, and then these are the customers after the campaign. Or you can consider that these are the customers last year, and then these are the customers in the current year. Now, at first glance, what it looks like is that clearly the number of customers have increased, isn't it? But tell me something, just by looking at a list that looks larger in size, does that necessarily mean that the number of customers that have increased are all loyal customers? Maybe not. Maybe only some of them are repeat and some of them have quit the company. Ganesh, I'll not be sharing the file, everyone. The simple reason for that is that since it's only an open workshop, I want to share the entire thing with you, which is the process of writing the formula. Any queries that you have, I'll be happy to answer that. But the thing is that I will not have enough time for you to practice with me. But I assure you that after the workshop is over, I have all your email IDs with me. All these solutions that I've created, you can see that everything is in a folder, right? So once I've created all the solutions, right after the workshop is over, I will send everything back to you, right? So you will have the solution with you, but we will not have time to practice it in this 90 minutes because I have so many different topics that I want to cover. I hope everyone is okay with that. Also, some of you might be working on older versions of Excel, so these functions might not be available to you. So it is best to watch, learn, ask questions, and then you have all the time in the world to practice, right? Perfect. Now, as you can see, if I look at Aaron, right? Look carefully. If you look at Aaron, everyone, you will see that Aaron has not made a purchase in the next year, which is signifying what? Now, this signifies for me that Aaron is what we refer to as a lost customer. But if you look at Justin, it's very clear that Justin has made a purchase in the last year as well as in the current year. So Justin is what I would refer to as a loyal customer or a repeat customer. So let me write a simple VLOOKUP for this. I will say VLOOKUP. Who are we searching for? We are searching for Aaron. I'm searching in the table, which is column E, column number 1, and then exact match. Nothing special, nothing complicated, just your basic VLOOKUP. So what it does is it searches for Aaron in the entire column E, and it tells me NA. The NA means that Aaron is a lost customer. Aaron has not made a purchase with us in the current year. Now, if I expand this formula, and rather than just searching for C6, if I'm searching for C6, C15, what do you expect will happen? You will notice that there are 10 customers in the previous year. For each one of them, I will get a result. Either the name will be there or an NA will be there. For example, right now there are only 2 NAs that are coming. What does that mean? NA for Aaron signifies that Aaron has not made a purchase in the second year. Similarly, I have an NA for Catherine. You will notice that Catherine has not made a purchase for the second year. Why does Rick have a Rick? Because if you notice, Rick has made a purchase in the second year. By chance, if you delete it, you will notice that this changes into NA as well, right? So far, what have we done? We have got a binary result. We either have an NA, which signifies a lost customer, and we have a name that signifies a repeat customer. Now, very smartly, I will say is NA, and the is NA will convert all the values into either a true or a false. Okay, now think about it carefully. When I write is NA, what is happening? My NAs are becoming true and all the others are becoming false. But that's not what I want, right? What I would like is the reverse. I would like a true for the repeat and a false for the customers that have quit the company. So I will use a not to reverse the result, right? So let me just combine everything into a single formula. See, I know it's a little complicated, but I hope you're able to follow what we are doing. Obviously, it will require a lot of practice for you to go through this, right? But if you notice what I'm doing is I'm saying is NA, then I'm writing not to reverse the results. Now, once I've done this, I want to filter the data. So I want to filter all my customers, but in a way that only the true values are shown to me. So what will happen is, so if you notice everyone, let me just take a screenshot of the formula so that all of you can see. Okay. As you can see, everyone, these 8 are the only repeat customers we have. The other 2, because there are total 10 in the previous year, are the lost customers. For example, if Aaron had made a purchase in the current year, now you notice Aaron would have appeared in this list as well, right? Any questions on this, anyone? See, obviously, when you practice it, you will understand it better. It can't be learned in a hurry. But broadly, I hope you see why we are doing it. What is the use case for business? What are the different applications for HR and marketing, typically for marketing? And how otherwise would have been so difficult. We have managed to write a single formula that gives us the result. So any questions on this? Sure. I mean, you could have used an X lookup as a replacement for the V lookup. That is a matter of choice. That will not add any value or make it more difficult. That is, again, not the important part here. I could have used an index match as well, for example. The idea is that I have to do some type of a lookup, either a V, an X, or an index match. That will give us all the results and some errors. And the errors will be converted to a true. I'll have to reverse the result and then use a filter function. Right? Now, here's the thing. Imagine that I wanted to do this, but I don't have to teach everyone how to write the formula. Let me give you, a real world scenario. When I work with a client, let's say a client like Adani, now they have thousands of employees, isn't it? Now, even if I build the formula for them and I do a training for, let's say, 15 or 50 of these employees, how will the others get to know how to write the formula? And with a complex formula like this, it's very easy to goof up something. You can make a mistake here or there, forget a character. And if you don't understand how the formula is working, it's very difficult to figure out what mistake you have made. So now in Excel, we can create something called a Lambda. A Lambda, everyone, is a way of creating a reusable function in Excel. It's a very new function. It only came 1 year back. So don't be surprised if you have never heard of it, everyone. But the idea is that a Lambda allows me to create a reusable function. I'll show you how to do that. But first, let me answer the question. So Suresh, how do we know how many times the customer is purchased? Required each time customer purchase details. If that's okay, I'll do that in a different example. As you can see, I have an example on CLV, which is the customer lifetime value, that tells us the number of times and the amount that the customer has purchased. I will be covering that as well, right? Because in this data set, it's such a small data set, it's very difficult for us to write the formula and get a meaningful result. So I'll not do it here, right? But typically, if you want to count how many times the customer has made a purchase, I would use the count if. The count if tells me how many times is one customer appearing in the list, obviously. Okay, let's look at the Lambda, everyone. So what I'm going to do is I will take my same formula, Control C, equal to Lambda, all right? And I'll paste my formula here. But very smartly, what I want to do is I want to give a few inputs to the Lambda. Now, how many inputs are required? 2 of them. The first input is the column E and the second input, and the first input is my column C. So look carefully what I'm doing here. In Lambda, I'm going to give 2 inputs here. My first input will be before, and my second input will be after. So I can change my formula now, and I can say that I'm searching for before. Again, I'm searching for before, and this is after. Now, right now, when I run the formula, you notice that nothing happens. But if I copy the entire thing, Control C, I can go to formulas, name manager, and I can create a new name. And what is the name called? I'm going to call this, let's say, repeat customers, okay? And I'm going to paste my formula here. Now, this is so cool because somebody who wants the result, now they don't have to write this entire formula that I have written. All they have to do is, if you notice, all I will have to do is to write, please watch, equal to repeat customers. What is my before? C6 to C15. What is my after? Column E. And you get the same result. How cool is that? Remember, Lambda is not about making your formulas easier. Exactly the same formula that we had written before is what I'm writing even now. There's no difference. The difference is that I'm packaging it as a function that will become a part of Excel workbook, and others can use it without needing to write this long, complex formula every single time. Now, the introduction of Lambda, like I said, is very recent. And this was such a big deal that Satya Nadella announced this everywhere, right? Where it was introduced in 2021. So Satya said that when Lambda was introduced, Excel formulas, which is the world's most popular programming language, has now become something called Turing complete, which means you can build your own algorithms on it without needing to write any code. I could have done this with Visual Basic or with JavaScript as well, but why would I? When there's such an easy way of just writing a normal Excel formula and packaging it like a Lambda. Right? So this is a bonus that I'm giving you. The example was actually about this one, the repeat customers, but I also wanted to show you how the Lambda works. Right? Any questions, anyone?
Hi, Havish. One doubt I have. Lambda, it's operational in Office 365. However, do we need to have the beta version to have Lambda adapted in the name version, or is it okay?
Yeah, so if you notice, on my account, I'm an Office Insider, so I'm on the beta channel. But I believe Lambda has now been rolled out to every Microsoft Office 365 subscriber. So even if you're not on the Insider channel, you will still have it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I can't guarantee that with 100%, but I've noticed that in the last maybe month and a half, a lot of my clients are telling me that they have Lambda. And typically, enterprise clients are not on the Insider channel because it's very buggy and there are issues with it. So I'm fairly confident that Lambda has been introduced as a general availability now.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, let's just continue this and try to find out lost customers as well. Now, see, I'm not going to do these examples because I'm going to share the solution with you and you can go back and practice, right? If you notice, the lost is almost the same way, but this time we're not reversing the result because we only want the NA values, right? That is why we're only writing is error, not. Okay, for new customers, again, it's very, very similar. The only difference is that in my lookup, I'm looking up column E in column C. So we're just reversing it. And that tells me how many customers are new customers, okay? The final one is the lifetime customers. So I want to do this one with you. Let's keep the formula on the side. I'll do it from scratch, okay? Now here's the business requirement. The company has some customers in the previous year. Some of those customers are repeat customers. Some of those customers are lost customers. They have not purchased in the current year. Some customers are new, which means that they are only appearing in the current year, but they're not there in the previous year. So look at all the combinations. For example, Aaron is a lost customer. Justin is a repeat customer. And Patrick and Ritsa are new customers, isn't it? What, as a business, I want to do is to create a comprehensive enumerative list of all the customers that I have. That means any customer that has made a purchase anytime in the last year or in the current year. Whether they are repeat, whether they are lost, whether they are new, it doesn't matter. We just want a complete list of all the customers that we have. Let's see how I do this. Okay. Now, the first thing that I want to do is I would like to get a list of all my old customers. Okay. So please see what I'm doing. I'm saying equal to unique of C6C15, and that tells me a list like this, which is okay. But here's the thing. If I select the entire column, please see what is happening. If I select the entire column, then do you see this part? 3 additional values seem to get picked up at the top. One is the 0, which is the blank cell, because in column C, there are a lot of blank cells. The second value is the before campaign and the last year, which is the heading that we have. Now, I would like to remove these 3 values. How do I do that? For this, I use a function called drop. Now, this function called drop was introduced just about, I think, 1 or 2 or 3 months back. Most likely, you don't have it right now, but you will get it. As long as you're on Microsoft 365, these functions will be rolled out to you. But after today's workshop, when you go back and practice, you might not have it. So don't worry about it. It's not because it's a paid feature or anything. It's just that it's very new and you might not have it right now, but you should get it any day now. Okay. What drop does is allows me to drop the top 3 values. This is similar to how we can limit a statement in SQL, or how we can go to Python and I can use a head or tail. Very similar to that. I'm dropping the top 3 values and now it gives me all the old customers. Very cool. Now, I would like to do this with the new customers as well. So first, I'm going to save a variable. Everyone, I'm going to save a variable called old customer. And this is my old customer. Now, I have another variable called my new customer, which is nothing but same thing. I'm doing a drop with a unique, but I'm doing this with column E and 3. Okay. Finally, I want to join them one below the other. Let's say I have 5 customers in the old and I have 10 customers in the new. I just want to add them one below the other. How do I do that? This is another new. This is another new function called vstack, similar to how you do an append, right? Vstack essentially adds it one below the other. So I'm doing a vstack of my old customer and my new customer. Now, the only problem here is that it will work, but the problem is that what happens to a customer who's a repeat customer? For example, Justin, do you see this? So Justin is coming here and Justin is also coming one more time because it is literally repeating the value, which doesn't make sense. So I would like to show a unique so that I only get one customer name a single time. And here you go. It tells us all the customers that we have. Okay. Any questions on this? So I know the functions are new. Like I said, the drop, the vstack are very, very new, right? They only came a few months back, but they're very exciting. And once organizations start to get used to it, everybody loves it. I mean, why would you not want to use something like this? Right? So in this example, I've covered repeat customer, lost customers, new customers, and all customers, right? Which is my lifetime customers. Any questions, anyone? Okay. One more way of doing this is via Power Query, right? So on the data tab, we have this tool called the Power Query Editor. Now, the Power Query Editor is an ETL tool that allows you to combine, extract, transform, load the data. And it works not just on Excel, but it works on Excel, Power BI, SQL Server, Power Automate. Let me show you how that would work. First, I will have to convert this into a table, right? So if that's okay, I'll just copy it into a new file. I'm going to call this old and I'm going to call this new, right? So insert table. And my table is called old here. Same thing here. I will say insert table. And I'm going to call this my new customers. Now, let me show you how to do this via Power Query. So similar to SQL, where in SQL, we have different types of joins, isn't it? Like this, which is exactly what we are trying to do. We are trying to find out how many customers are unique to table 1, how many customers are unique to table 2, how many customers are common across both the tables, how many customers are total, which means unique in 1, unique in 2, and how many customers are not repeat. That means how many customers are either old customers or new customers. This is exactly what we do with SQL joins, isn't it? So even those of you who have never worked with joins earlier, I hope you see how the applicability is in a marketing analytics setup, right? Okay, so let me show you how that would work. So I will first take my old table, and on data, I will send it to from table. That means we are sending it to Power Query, right? Like this. Perfect. Let me close and load. One more time. Let me go to my new table, and we will send it via data from table range to Power Query. And we get this. So now we have an old and a new. What do we want to do? We want to do a join, isn't it? Similar to what we do in SQL. How do we do that? So I'm going to select my old table, and we will say merge queries, right? So I want to merge the query. And how do I want to do that? I will select my old and new, select the two columns. And now you notice there are different types of joins available. I will not get into detail right now because I already have a YouTube video that covers it in detail, but I just give you an idea of what this is. Let us say we want to find repeat customers, right? So think about which one it would be. So we want the inner, right? Which means that we want the matching rows. That means how many of these names are common between old and new. So once I select inner and I click on OK, let me expand the table. Let me get my new column. Now, do you see what happened, everyone? Look carefully. Initially, how many names did I have? I had 10 of them, isn't it? Look what happened after the merge. It reduced it to 8, which is so cool. This is exactly what we did, isn't it? These 8 names, which are essentially what they are the repeat customers, is exactly what we had done in our formula in the previous example. So if you remember, what we had done here was exactly the same result that we're getting here as well. Right, everyone? Any questions on this, on Power Query? I'm showing it to you because Power Query is a part of Excel. And also when you're working on Power BI, you will need to know how it works. And once the fundamental of a join is clear, you will essentially be able to work on any tool, whether it's Tableau Prep or NIME or Alteryx or Python or R, because every tool has joins in it, right? Let me also share the video with everyone. Okay, so let me go to playlist and select Power BI. And I want to come to joins. Here we go. Perfect. So just take a minute, think about it. If you have any questions, let me answer those, and then we'll continue with the next example. Anyone, any question that you have? Okay. I'm also going to save these files like I promised. So not this one, because it's already there on YouTube, but I'm going to save this one so I can send it back to you. All right, okay. Let's move over to a different example. So we've done the loyalty. Let's do a very small example, but very important, called customer cohort, right? Let me first explain what this means. Okay. As you can see, customer cohort analysis is a very, very important metric. Not in all organizations in all sectors, but it's very common to use the cohort analysis wherever the business is a repeat order business. For example, let us say that I am a Procter & Gamble, right? So I work in the CPG space. And what I would like to find is that my retailers, because I'm not selling to consumers directly, right? I'm selling to retailers. So as a Procter & Gamble, when I'm selling to retailers, There are some retailers who joined my company 5 years back. Some of them joined 4 years back. Some of them joined last year. Some of them joined in the current year. So people who joined in 2018 will be called the 2018 cohort, then the 2019 cohort, so on and so forth. Similar to how in a B school you have a batch, right? So you have a batch of 2024, you have a batch of 2015, like that. Now, this is very important to measure customer retention. Again, very closely associated with customer loyalty. The basic idea is that we want to create something like this. As you can see, Google is flooded with these examples. There are obviously different tools that allow you to find the customer retention or the cohort. But the basic idea is that even if I'm a mobile application, what happens is that the day I launch the application, I'm obviously going to get a lot of people who are curious what the application is. But the most important metric that I'm looking at is something called the DAU. What is it? The DAU is called the daily active users, right? As a product manager, if you have an app that you're handling, the DAU is a very important metric because one metric is the number of downloads. So let us say that I have an app and 1 lakh people have downloaded it, isn't it? But the DAU basically tells me how many users are active daily. For example, if you look at Facebook, now Facebook has been in the news recently because Facebook daily active users have been dropping significantly. Do you see this? This is just from a month back. Facebook paid a Meta Post's first ever revenue drop. In the history of Facebook, now Meta, they have never ever had a revenue drop. This is the first time, right, that they have had a revenue drop. This is such a big moment in history that there has been a revenue drop. And do you see this metric, everyone? The DAU in June was 1.97 billion on average. Let me open it and show you the significance of the DAU. Okay, check this out. So they said that the DAU in June was 1.97 billion on average, which means that while they have grown their DAU by 3%, their overall revenue is still decreasing because the DAU is not the only metric. You also want to look at something like on a website, we have something called a dwell time, right? The dwell time basically tells us how much time is a person spending on a page before clicking. For example, let us say that you are interested in my course, right? So you go to my website and you go to Havisham Consulting/shop. But you're spending 5 minutes because you're reading through all the content and you end up not clicking anywhere. So you're not interested in any of the courses. You don't like my content. So what do you end up doing? You end up closing the window. Now that would be referred to as what we call a bounce rate. Right? So single page session divided by all sessions. What does it mean? It means that a person came to a page and the person did not click anywhere else. They just abandoned the page. See, again, I don't want to make this a marketing workshop. This is an analytics workshop. Some of you might know these terminologies already, but I'm just sharing with you what are the terms that we use for our analytics, right? I hope you find it helpful. You can also look at some websites like this where you have a marketing glossary. I'll just share the link with everyone, where you can read about the different metrics that we typically use as a marketer, right? There's a lot of content that has been given here. I'm going to focus more on the analytics side. I'm going to tell you how to calculate it, not why we are calculating it, right? Okay. So let's look at the cohort analysis. Now, if you look at these customers, we have quite a large data. We have about 51,000 records. And you will notice that one customer has made multiple purchases. For example, if I apply a filter and I go to, let's say, my very first customer, do you see this? The customer AE103151 has made multiple purchases, but if you look carefully, when was the first purchase? The first purchase was in 2011, right? After that, there was a gap. For 1 year, the customer did not purchase from us. Then the customer again purchased in 2013 and again in multiple times in 2014, right? Similarly, there are a lot of customers who might have purchased for the very first time in 2014 itself, right? Let me give you an example. Okay. I'm not sure how I could find that example for you, but let me write the formula first. So very simple. What we are saying is we want to find the acquisition year. That means we want to know which is the year in which we acquired the customer for the first time. How do we do that? Very simple. I will say equal to min if s. Similar to how we have a countif and a sumif, I'm writing a min if s. The minimum range is my date. The criteria is my customer ID. And the criteria one is my customer ID, which is the specific customer ID. So it tells me, let me convert this into a date as well. Hold on. I'll use the same format here. Okay. 1/1/2011. So that means that this customer has purchased for the first time in 2011. But we only want the year from it. We don't want the entire date. So what are we going to do? Look carefully. I'm going to write the year, right? And if I convert everything back to a number, now we're going to get 2011. Now, if I copy this formula all the way down, right, that we get a different year for different customers. Do you see this? Look at this one. BS 113651 has made a purchase for the first time in 2014, right? This is great. Now, all that is left is I go to insert, I go to pivot table. In my pivot table, very smartly, I'm going to put my order date in my rows. I'm going to put my acquisition year in my columns, and I'm going to put my sales in my values. Do you see what it is doing, everyone? It is telling me, look at this. How cool is that? It is telling me that in 2011, there was only one cohort, which is 2011. What was the purchase? 22,59,000. The same set of customers in the next year decreased. Do you see? Overall, the business increased. I agree. From 22, you went to 26. But the customers who were there in the previous year dropped to 70. But the next year, there was a resurgence because they went again back to 22 and then again back to 28. Similarly, the customers who joined in 2012, in 2012, they were 90 lakhs, or sorry, 9 lakhs, then 8 lakh, and then 9 lakh once again. Now, it would be better if I present this as a chart, right? Now, I can also reverse it. And do you see this way the data has been presented, everyone? Remember, this is what I showed you on Google as well. So whenever you're presenting customer cohort, this is how you present the data, right? Like this. Very, very common. I mean, almost every marketing analytics problem wants to find out the customer cohort, right? Now, remember, customer cohort can also be done in a tool like Python. See, the metric doesn't change. The tool changes, the way you do it changes. But as you can see, I can do cohort analysis on Python as well. In fact, let me just show you how I would do that. Even if you don't understand coding, you can see how it would work, right? Please watch. Oh, by the way, why is it so important? So because we always say that retaining an existing customer is always cheaper and a better option compared to acquiring a new customer, right? So the amount of money I will spend on acquiring a new customer, what we refer to as our CSC, which is a customer acquisition cost, right? So let's say Swiggy is giving me 5 discounts in 1 month. Why? Because Swiggy wants me to purchase from Swiggy, isn't it? So they are spending money on me, which is called a cash burn. But if I don't end up becoming a loyal customer, it's a waste of time. That is why cohort analysis is very important, because as an organization, ideally, I would want every customer to be loyal. I would want my customers to keep on purchasing from me every single month, every single quarter, right? Anyway, if you look at the way we are calculating it, you will notice that, okay, I don't know where the code is, just a moment. Never mind, I'll find it somewhere else. Okay, so hold on. Yeah. So you can see how we do this on Python. First, we import pandas, matplotlib, and then seaborn, and a few other smaller libraries. After that, we take our data set, and you notice we are reading the Excel file. So pd.read, I'm reading my data set, and this is the values that we're taking, customer ID, invoice ID, and the date, right? Once we have done that, we are dropping some NA values. We are describing the data, which is just a descriptive analysis. So the percentiles and all. And after that, if you look at the final result, it gives us the distribution plot, right? And for the cohort analysis, I'm doing a data frame. So if you notice, dropping duplicates, then I'm doing a group by. A group by is like a summarize that we're performing, similar to a pivot table, right? Once I've done the group by, we have an aggregation, right? Then we are creating a pivot. Did you see this? Similar to how we did it on Excel, we are creating a pivot here. And anyway, you can go through it later, but the final result is exactly what we did on Excel as well. Like I said, of course, the tool, the language will be different, but why we are doing it and the process of doing it will remain more or less the same, right? Perfect. Let me go back. Let me also make a chart here, something I personally like to do for my clients. So insert chart, and I'm going to make a 100% bar chart like this. So let me explain what this is, right? Hold on. And I would also like to convert this into a percentage, if that's okay. So how do I do that? Right click and then show values as percentage of row total. Here we go. And let me add the data label. Okay. Check this out. I'm just cleaning up a little bit so that you all can understand better. Perfect. And let's hide all the elements on the chart. Excellent. How do you interpret, or rather, how do you explain it to your client? You will see that in 2011, 100% of your sales came from the customer, which came in 2011. In 2012, 66, 2/3 of your sales came from the 2011 customers. 1/3 came from the new customers. In 2013, new customers only contributed 11%. That's not a good sign. And in 2014, only 3% came from new customers. Now, see, there are two ways of looking at it. As a business, I might be happy at the fact that my older customers are still contributing 2/3 of my business, which is good. But new customers is also very important, right? I want to constantly acquire new customers, and that is not happening because new customer contribution has gone down from 33 to 11 to 3%, which is not a good sign at all. This probably means that I'm focusing a lot more on my older customers, retaining them, customer retention, which is great. But at the same time, I also need to focus on the new customer acquisition, right? Like this. Any questions on this? Anyone? Just give me 1 second. There's something that has come on my phone. Yeah, all good. My screen is very small, which is hard to focus. I'm not sure what to say to that because I have zoomed in as much as I can. I'm not sure what device you're viewing on, but I mean, I think this should be fairly large. I don't think there should be any part which is difficult to understand. Yeah, I mean, let me just share once again because I am sharing my entire screen. So yeah, I'm not really sure how to fix that. Perfect. Any other question, anyone? So quick recap. What is the relevant step? Raj, see, that really depends. So I'll give you an example. In the sector where I do a lot of work, which is the energy and power sector. So I work with Sterlite, and Sterlite has this power cable division, right? Sterlite Technologies. Now, obviously, this is a business-to-business product. I'm not selling transmission cables to consumers, right? I'm selling it to other businesses. Now, if you think about it logically, if as a Sterlite, I'm selling it to other companies like a Tata Power, then it's not that every year I'll be getting new customers because my customers are fixed, isn't it? A customer who has purchased from me 5 years back will continuously purchase from me, most likely. Acquiring new customers is very rare because the nature of the business is such that I'm not going to get new customers. So when you're talking about industrial products, in industrial products, it's very hard to have new customers coming in. Does that make sense? If you look at the automotive sector, it's very interesting because in the automotive sector, if you track over a period of 10, 15 years, a lot of customers return to a brand, isn't it? For example, if you are a Hyundai customer, you might come back to a Hyundai or you might switch over to a different brand. Now, both of these are metrics that you need to track. Ideally, as a Hyundai customer, I want somebody to buy from me again, isn't it? But there is no guarantee. People like to switch from one to the other. But there is enough data being captured for us to see whether customers are repeat or not. But even if my new customers are not a lot, should it be a worry sign? It depends. As a company, if my sales are growing, I'm happy that maybe my loyal customers are purchasing from me again. But it's also a bad sign if I'm not getting new customers because that means that people are not switching over from other brands. Do all of you remember what happened when Jio came in? Remember the number portability scheme that happened, everyone? And we always said that there were so many business losers that happened. So if you look at Airtel and if you look at Vodafone, I'm not sure if I can find an article, but there was in the news that who were the biggest loss makers? Because when Jio came in, a lot of people abandoned Airtel and Vodafone because they were not happy with the services, right? That is where, again, you might want to look at something like new customers and acquired customers and lost customers, because it's very important for you to see, are you able to retain customers over time? Because if I've been an Airtel customer for 10 years, okay, now I have moved from Airtel to Vodafone, and then I came back to Airtel. What am I? I am what we call a return customer. So a return customer is a customer who was a customer, stopped purchasing for you, but came back to you. And in the telecom sector, this is a very important metric because you measure things over a large period and you have the data for it, isn't it? You have data for years and years. So you're actually able to see whether they are new, lost, return, old, abandoned customers, right? I hope that gives you some more clarity. Okay, look at this one. Do you see this? So Jio adds 4.22 million users. What does that mean? They're new customers, isn't it? And then again, it will also tell me that Bharti Airtel was flat, only 0.79 million, right? And you get the idea. Absolutely. So the cash burn or the customer acquisition cost is very high. Let me give you an example. So I've been a cred user for a number of years now. And I order from Swiggy quite a bit, right? And you will not believe it, for the last 4-5 months, I'm getting 50 rupees off on every order. I don't know how. And I always thought that at some point they will stop. But they continue to give me 50 rupees off on every order. What is that money? Where is that money coming from and where is it going? See, that money is spent on customer acquisition. This is the investor's money, right? So as a cred, when you go to the investor, what will you say? You will say that, see, I want to spend, let's say 10 into 50, 500 rupees on Havish, because I feel that if Havish is given an offer 10 times, Havish will begin to like the app. Havish will become used to the app. And that is why Havish will not move away from cred, even when the offers stop. Remember when Paytm started many, many years back, we used to get an offer on everything. There was a cashback on everything, and that stopped. But when that stopped, we continued to use it. Why? Because there was a loyalty that and a habit formation that happened, right? So I don't, again, want to get into the consumer behavior side of it, but absolutely. I mean, the cash burn and the CAC is something very important. Anyway, so back to our example. Let me close this. Okay. The next one I want to cover is my average revenue per user. Okay. Slightly different example. And let me try to explain it to you. In the telecom sector, we have something called the ARPU, which is average revenue per user. What does that mean? On an average, what is the total sales for a customer? That means if I look at Aaron Bergman, everyone, what is this? Aaron Bergman has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 transactions. And what is the average of all these transactions? The average is 147. But that's not what I want. What I would like to do is to find the total, which is 886 for Aaron Bergman. Similarly, I want to find the total for every single customer. And then I would like to find the average of all the customers, right? So this is called the CLV, which is the customer lifetime value. So again, if you look at the metric, very, very important. The customer lifetime value essentially refers to the total value that the customer is earning for you. So typically for a business, if you have spent money on acquiring, right, and you have spent money on, you're earning money from the customer, obviously your CLV has to be higher than the cap. Because if you're spending more money on acquiring the customer than what you're earning from them, then there is no point, right? Anyway, let's go back. Let's see how to do this. Okay, watch carefully. Now, what I would like to do here is I will say equal to unique. And then I will say, I want to get a list of unique markets. So you can see that there are 5 markets that we have. United States, Canada, Africa, APAC, Europe, and Latin America. I would also like to transpose the data so that they appear in different columns like this, right? Okay. Now I would like to know that in United States, Canada, who are the customers who are there? Okay, watch carefully. So I will say equal to. And how do I know who are the customers? I will apply a filter, okay? And we will say that I would like the array to be, okay, watch carefully, all the customers. But what do I want to include? I only want to include my market, which is equal to USC. So what does that mean? It means that out of these, you see this? Out of these 100 transactions, 100 customers, I just want to see how many of them are in USC. How many are there? 32. You can see that number here, right, everyone? So out of total 100 transactions, 32 of them are in USC. I also want to do a unique here. So we get 15 unique customers. So if I copy this formula, let me apply a $ as well. Okay. So you see how smartly what we have done is we have said in USC, there are 15 unique customers. In Africa, there are 19. There are 14, there are 14, and there are 10, like this. Okay. Now, the next thing I want to do is that for these customers, I would like to find the sum of sales, which means I will say equal to the sum if of my customer name, right? Now, what is the criteria? The criteria is that it has to be these customers, and the sum range is from sales. So remember for Aaron Bergman, we had 886. I'll just prove it to you once again. So if I select Aaron Bergman, you will notice that we are getting 6 transactions, 886. That is the same number that we're getting here as well. Super cool, right? This is what we wanted. But the thing is that I don't need the names. I just need these values because I need to find the average of these values. So how do I do that? Rather than writing this entire formula, I don't need to write it separately. I can just put it here itself. So I can say, rather than writing A12 hash, I'll just put this here. Same result, but we have compressed it into a single formula like this. And finally, we can now say that we would like to find the average. That tells me 3250. Now, everyone, let me explain what this number is. 3250 means that on an average, in United States and Canada, the total, okay, of each customer is 3250. For example, if for Aaron Bergman, the total is 882, for some customer it is 5,000, for some it is 10,000, for somebody it is 300. The average of all those numbers is 3250. And if you do this for all the 5, right? Just a moment. In fact, just a second. I'm not going to do the transpose. Let me get it one below the other. Now that we have understood it. And yeah, let me see if there's anything else I need to change. 11. I think everything is okay. Yeah. Now, do you see this? I know there's a very small difference, but it's a difference nevertheless. So it tells me if I apply a conditional format, what is the minimum here? The minimum is, let's make it 31 to 34. Just a moment. Okay. So what does it tell me? It tells me that Europe, on an average, has the smallest customer lifetime value. And on an average, Asia Pacific has the highest customer value. How cool is that? I know the formula is quite a lot. There's a lot of stuff that is happening. You could have done it with a pivot table as well. For example, I could have gone to insert and pivot table, right? In the pivot table, we could have kept our customer name in the rows, market in the columns, and then sales in the values. And then at the top, we could have written equal to average of all of these things, all of the customers. Now you might say, but Havish, isn't this better? Do you see this? You're getting the same result. But this doesn't make sense because it's very manual. You have to make a pivot. Then this formula has to be written manually. That means you can't make it dynamic. You can't combine it with other formulas. Here, on the other hand, it does require a little bit of effort. But because we have written it ourselves, we have complete flexibility and complete control over it. Right? Any questions on this? Anyone? Let me just take a screenshot as well. Like I told you all before, I will be sharing the files with you along with the solution. So don't worry about that. Of course, it will require quite a bit of practice because, see, you have to break the formula into smaller parts. You can't learn and write everything in one go. Even I don't do that. You build it part by part. So whenever you see a long, complex formula, we are never actually writing the formula from left to right. We're always writing it bit by bit. Right? All good? Okay. Let's do something else now. I want to do this on Power BI and on Tableau. Both tools we can do it. I want to do something called the K-means. Okay. You can make a note of it and you can go back and read about it. There's a lot of information available on this on the internet. Right? I will not cover it. It's a part of machine learning. In fact, it's one of the simplest types of machine learning that we do. So typically we would do this in Python, but we can do this in Power BI and Tableau as well. There are two different types that we usually use. We have K-means and something called KNN, which is the K nearest neighbor. One is a supervised, the other is an unsupervised technique. And you can read about it. Both of them are ML algorithms. K-means is unsupervised, which is what we're using right now. And this is supervised. Clustering used for CART, which is classification regression. And yeah, I mean, let me give you an example now. Okay, so I have my data set here. Okay, so I have my data set here, and we actually don't need so many columns. So let me just highlight the ones that are important. Okay, so I want to look at my customer name. I want to look at my sales, and I want to look at my profit. That's it, right? There are 50,000 transactions. We have about 700 customers, the sales and the profit. And I want to create customer clusters, right? We call this clustering. Okay. So let me do this on Tableau. All right. So I'll connect to my Excel file. Let's go to desktop and open and global. Okay, here we are selecting the sheet. So here we are selecting the sheet. And what I would like to do is to double click on my profit, double click on my sales value, and then double click on my customer name. Okay. Now, if you notice, what it does is it automatically creates a scatter chart. Profit on the y-axis, obviously it can be negative as well, and the sales on the x-axis, which is obviously a positive number. Now, if I ask you, what is the insight from this data? Like if I have to do some customer segmentation, how do we do that? Now, we know that these are outliers, right? These are customers very high on sales and very high on profit. These are customers negative profit, right? And there is a very dense cluster that is forming in the middle, which is very typical for any organization, right? So I will go to analytics. We will select our cluster and we simply drag it inside. Now it asks me, how many variables do I want to consider? So I'm considering the profit and the sales, but if you want, you can also drag additional variables like this, but we are not doing that right now. So I want to remove it. We will just take two variables and I want to create some number of clusters. Let me say 5 clusters, right? Like this. Okay. Now I have a question and I would like all of you to answer it. Can somebody tell me, out of these 5 clusters, cluster 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which cluster is earning me the maximum profit as a business? Quick. Out of these 5 clusters, which cluster is earning me the maximum profit as a business?
You could do that by tooltip size. If you mention in the size, I think the greater the bubble, the greater the profit in the sales.
No, I don't want to do that at customer level. I want to do that at a cluster level, right? So just tell me the answer. Okay, don't tell me the technique. Just tell me out of these 5, anyone.
3 clusters. K means eigenvalue and dimension reduction. So if you take it as an elbow method in Python or any other thing, it would give 3 clusters and not 5.
Right. So again, what we are talking about is more sophistication. Obviously, in Tableau, we don't have the level of sophistication. And you have to understand that what we would do in statistics or let's say in data science is very different to how businesses would work. I'm not talking about data science work, right? I'm talking about a general business. So when I speak to a CFO or a CHRO or a CMO, they are not interested in understanding what is an elbow method and when it starts to drop off. They are more interested to get a bird's eye view in terms of what the segments look like. So you're absolutely correct. What I'm saying is that the tool is not capable of getting into that level of detail. But broadly, when I am saying that this is my 5 different clusters, for my convenience, I've created it. I'm not saying that it's a good idea to do it. Maybe my manager has told me that, Havish, we have 796 customers. Can you break them into 5 different categories? That is what I'm doing. Now, the first rule is that never ever jump to a conclusion. Without analyzing the data, you cannot say which one is contributing the highest profit, right? You don't know. Nobody can know, right? The correct way of doing that would be, please watch. I'm going to drag my clusters back into the tables, which gives me customer name clusters as a field. I'll make another sheet. I'll double click on it. And now I'll double click on the profit and the sales. And this, everyone, is what tells us with confidence that if I look at my profit here, cluster 1 is contributing the highest profit, 6,46,000, which is this one. Which is the second one? The second one is 427, which is cluster 4. This one, right? And then which is the third one? The third one is cluster 5 with 169, which is, I'm sorry, cluster 5. So cluster 5, which is this one, right? So one more time, we have cluster 1, 4, and 5. So we have 1, and then 4, and then 5. Right? So especially between 4 and 5, it's not very clear at a glance which one would be contributing a higher profit. Also, maybe now you want to find the profit margin, which would be nothing but the profit divided by sales. So let me go to analysis and create a calculated field. Here we call it a profit margin, which is nothing but my sum of profit divided by my sum of sales value. Okay. We want to convert this into a percentage. So default properties, number format, percentage. And let's put the profit margin in the table. And here we go. Now, in terms of profit margin, the story is very different. In terms of profit margin, do you see cluster 1, everyone? Even though cluster 1 as an absolute number is contributing the highest to your bottom line, 6,46,000. In terms of profit margin, it's actually not that good. It's only 14%. Cluster 5 is the highest at 20%, which means cluster 5, this is highest at 20%. And then cluster 4 is very close to cluster 1 at 15%. Right? So this is 15%. This is typically what one would analyze. Obviously, if a client needs more sophistication, then we don't do it on tools like Tableau and Power BI. We will have to use an R or a Python, because there we have much more control over how we are doing all of this, right? So let me just show that to you as well. How doing something like this on Python looks, right? Okay. Okay, this would be a little complex, so let me try a simpler one. So basically, the idea is that we take something called a centroid. See, I'm not making this into an ML class. I'm neither the expert nor do we have the time to cover it, but I'm just telling you the important metrics. So what we're doing is we choose the number of clusters, like we chose 5, here we're choosing 2, and then we have something called a centroid. The centroid means that there is a point and we want to see how close are all the other points to that point, which is called the distance. Now, the distance can also be calculated in different ways. So we have something called the Manhattan distance. We have something called the Euclidean distance. All of you remember the Pythagoras theorem, right?
Yes, yes.
So this is very similar to that. The Pythagoras theorem is very similar to how we calculate distances, right? But basically, once we have the centroid, we want to see how close are these points to that centroid. Then we create a segregation point. And after we have done that, we get 2 clusters. Obviously, once you want to know the right number of clusters, we use something called within clusters sum of squares, which is a way of us to determine what is the sum of square, which we use in regression as well, within the clusters. And that enables us to understand what should be the appropriate number of clusters. And for that, we use the elbow method. Right? The elbow method looks like this. So basically, here we see the drop off. So we see that till we have 3 clusters, it is appropriate. But the moment after that, you notice that the line becomes flat. Hence, we are using only 3 clusters right now. So basically, this is what we are doing, everyone, when we do this in Python. Tableau and Power BI, on the other hand, do it very simple. So you notice that here we don't get a lot of sophistication. Like, it doesn't even tell me what we did. It just gives me a description without getting into the hardcore data science behind it. From a visualization perspective, there's a lot more that you can do with it. For example, maybe I can also see the change over time. That means I can put my year in the pages, right? And if you notice, I can actually see from year to year how many clusters are changing. Like this, which can be quite handy for an organization. Typically, when you're doing it at a month level, then this is quite interesting because this allows you to see. Right? In fact, let me just slow down the speed. So how your clusters are changing over time. Now, you might say, but Havish, if I just look at a bird's eye view, what impact and what inference can I draw from it? But you have to understand, the head of an organization is not interested in detailed granular numbers, which distributor and which product and which SKU and which color is doing well and not doing well. This is enough for us to get a broad idea in terms of how the numbers are flowing. So I've shown you the granularity as well when we did the loyalty and the retention and all of that. But this is more of a bird's eye view that we're looking at. I'm not doing this on Power BI, but basically you can do the same thing on Power BI as well.
Havish, Ratika, last doubt. Tableau also, like DAX is there in Power BI. Tableau also has its own coding.
Sure. So in Tableau, we have something called level of detail expression. Let me just share that with you. So okay, so we have in Power BI we have DAX, which is the formula language that we are using, like this. Then in Tableau, for advanced calculation, we have something called level of detail expression, which is called LOD, which comes in a curly bracket. Otherwise, you have simple calculations in Tableau, but if you want to write complex calculations, then you need to write this include, exclude, and fixed, which is what you do in Tableau. You can find this on my channel. Just share the link. In fact, I also have an entire video on this. See, the only thing is that a lot of people say, Havish, why would I purchase your course if a lot of the content is there on YouTube? I do agree. About 20% of the content I have on YouTube is from my courses. 80% is still unique, but some of it is common. But see, there are two reasons why YouTube is not a good idea. Number one, you don't have the files, so you can't really practice. And it's very difficult for you to learn if you don't practice. That's one. Second is that it's very hard to motivate yourself when you're learning from YouTube. By that means, why do you even purchase a course? Why do I purchase courses? Everything and anything you need is available on YouTube, free of cost. The best content on the internet is not paid. It is free of cost. But why do we not do it? Because it's very hard to watch your 2 or 39-minute video on YouTube, right? It's much easier when you do it in the course format. And that is true for everyone. It's true for you. It's true for me as well. Anyway, I'll share the link here in case you want to look at this. These are all marketing problems, everyone, that have been covered here. So you can see here, there are different examples I've covered. So customer cohort, percent of total, customer acquisition, comparative sales analysis, order frequency, like that. Similarly, I have a Power BI playlist as well. Perfect. So there are a few things that we have left out, but that's okay. I think I'm fairly happy with what all we have covered. We've covered quite a lot. So we did the cohort, we did the loyalty. Then we saw the average revenue per user, and we also saw the customer clusters. Right? There are a few things I've left out, but you can find this on my channel as well. Perfect. Any questions, anyone that I can help you with? Even any general questions that you have, happy to answer.
Havish, Ratika again. Sorry.
Please.
Yeah, VStack, HStack, and let is there, Lambda is there, but beta version, if I have to update, only then I will get VStack and HStack also, because VStack was also not there. So I have to go via the beta updation and closing the application. And what is the process further, if you can enlighten on this?
Sure. So you just have to go to account, and then in this option, you can change the channel. So you will have to select the Office Insider channel.
Thank you.
Great. Anything else, anyone? Perfect. I'm also sharing my link to my courses, everyone. Basically, the examples I've taken are from my courses themselves. And then there are different bundles available here. This is exactly the same content that I'm teaching different organizations and consulting different organizations on. So there is a mega bundle which has all the different tools in it. And there's one for Excel, there's one for Power BI, Tableau, so on and so forth. Right? So if you're interested, you can have a look at this. Perfect. If there are no more questions, then thank you so much for joining me. I hope they were takeaways for all of you. If you have any further questions, I'm available over LinkedIn or over email. Feel free to get in touch with me.
There was this one doubt, how to get the certificate. Like there are group pricing and group courses versus individualistic courses. Which course offers certificates?
So all the courses have a certificate. I'll show you how the certificate looks like. So the moment you complete a course, I don't have an automated mechanism. So the moment you complete a course, you just send me an email asking me for the certificate. And I just create a certificate and you get it in 24 hours.
Oh, thank you.
That's all. Excellent. Thank you, everyone. All the very best.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, sir.